Hello everybody. I do believe that I am now live, and I'll just let a few more of you come online with me now. And a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining me on this beginning of the week, Monday. So I decided to take on a big subject here really, because the Sun, Moon and Ascendant, astrologically, are very powerful and important parts of an astrology chart. So when an astrologer asks you for your date, time and place of birth, the part that is the most sensitive is the ascendant, and this is why we ask for the time of birth. Because the time of birth shows the exact degree of the sign rising on the eastern horizon at the time you were born. So without the time of birth, an astrologer can't tell you what your ascendant is. If you don't have your time of birth, being asked here, well, there's a few ways around this. One is you can have a chart rectified, which would mean that an astrologer can spend many hours asking you various questions. I do this from time to time, and can rectify your birth time, can work out by looking at your life, significant events in your life, your parents, your siblings, all sorts of things, personality traits, can come up with the most likely time you were born. Another way it can be done is by you yourself learning characteristics of all the signs and then finding out what it is that you think is your ascendant sign. So for those of you who have your charts, then you're going to know your Sun, Moon and Ascendant. And I'm presuming that some of you do know. For those of you that don't know, but you do have your time, I'm going to suggest that you get my free chart. It's a free report you can get as well. Just go to my website. I've put it in at the top of this live stream description. And you can just get a free chart, which will show you where your Sun, your Moon and your Ascendant are, if you have your time of birth. If not, well, you're going to wing it with me today. Most people know their sun sign. Easy enough. The Sun in an astrology chart is your identity. I have a feeling that the internet has cut out. I'm very sorry about this. Can you hear me again? I recently upgraded to the fibre optic, and now that I have so much extra bandwidth, I did it mainly because I wanted to do the live streaming. I couldn't understand why it was so slow the other day, but somebody was stealing all my bandwidth. They'd logged on to somehow got inside of my connection there, so I'm hoping it's all right. Good, everybody's saying you can hear me again, thank you. So the Sun sign shows your identity in the chart. And you know your sun signs. So I won't go through sun signs in too much detail, although I could spend an hour or two on each and every sun sign, and maybe I'll do that at some point to be able to teach you the basics of astrology. And I'd love to be able to do this really all free, quite honestly. I'd like to be able to just give this away. For those of you who want to donate $1 here or there, that would be wonderful. But I really feel as though this should be in the free domain so that everybody can have access to learning about their own astrology chart. Something that I really feel very passionate about, because I think that knowing your own astrology chart intimately is a really powerful tool and can be very, very, very helpful to you and to the people around you and in your relationships. So eventually, for those of you who are really interested in astrology, you do need to understand all of the signs and what they all mean, and the colours and the tones and the nuances of all these different signs. But just let's say for now, the sun in your chart is where you shine. So wherever it appears, and I'm going to have to bring in the houses at some point, but I have done the houses. I've done a houses video anyway. So for those of you who are interested in a brief outline of the houses, that is free and up on YouTube. So the sun is where you shine. The moon in the chart. Now the moon is very, very important. I'm wondering if I've gone offline. Can you still hear me, please, guys? All right, still here. Everybody's still here. All right. So the moon in your chart is very, very important, because if you look at the sun, thank you. If you look at the sun sign, that changes approximately every 30 days. The sun stays in a particular sign for about a month. The moon sign, however, is much more sensitive. And this changes sign every 2.5 days approximately. And the moon inside you is your inner child, the sensitive part of you, how you need to be nurtured. The sun does not show that in the chart particularly, but the moon does. So that's very often why you can meet two sun signs. Let's say you're both Aries, you could be quite different, or two Geminis, or two Cancers, or two Libras. You may have certain characteristics that are similar, but you might be very, very different. But if you know your moon sign, and you don't necessarily need your time for the moon sign, because the advantage is it's likely to be in one of two signs. It's not going to be one of 12 if you don't know your time of birth for the ascendant. But for the moon sign, you can find that out again just by your date and place of birth. So the moon in the chart shows how you need loving. What makes you feel loved? So do you know your moon signs? Do you know your moon signs? I know you're all going to sun signs. So find out that moon sign. So let's look at some examples here. If your moon is in Aries, you're going to want somebody to take action. You're going to need to take actions, do things. You need to be active. Get out. Say it as it is. Maybe you're Taurus moon, like me. Taurus moon needs a good hug. Needs touching. Needs sensuality. Food. And you're going to find that in a domestic situation, the moon energy is really, really important. So when I look at people, do compatibility relationship readings, I'm looking at that moon sign because I want to see whether domestically they're going to be able to get along together. The advantage with two Taurus moons is they don't give up very easily. They're very stubborn, but they hang in there. Aries gets bored. Says, oh, I'm bored with this. Ah. And then we've got Gemini moon. Now, Gemini moon needs variety. It's so easily bored, it's not true. And it's restless. Come on, let's get on with it. Wants to learn things, very curious. They're always going on another course or another thing or teaching something else. Want to learn. And Cancer moon. Well, the moon's in rulership in Cancer, so Cancer moon is super sensitive. Needs to have something to nurture, something to love. An animal, a flower, likes the food again. Always makes a home wherever it is. Even if you're only in a place a short time, a Cancer moon needs to have that sense of home. And maybe you're a Leo moon, and Leo moons, well, Leo moons have got to be appreciated. You've got to be adored. Yes, you've got to be shown that you are really important, that you've got some, it's very creative. And Virgo moon, well, Virgo moon has got to feel productive. It's got to feel useful. Can be a bit finicky, a little bit picky, but you've got to give them something to do. Cancer moon, no. They want to feel it or eat it. But Virgo moon, they've got to be active, doing something tangible. What if you've got Libra moon? Libra moon, well, you've got to keep the peace. You want balance. You want people to love you. Please love me. So I often see charts if a child has a Libra moon. It's so important to not have conflict in the household. You don't really want conflict anyway, but a Libra moon child is going to take that so to heart. And then you've got Scorpio moon. Scorpio moon is intense. Scorpio moon is very loyal, hangs in there through the difficulties, doesn't give up, but it expects you. This is where you see you get the combinations. If you have somebody, I look at a relationship with someone with a Scorpio moon and somebody with a Gemini moon. So the Gemini moon is restless. The Scorpio moon says, where are you going? What are you doing? Hello? Where are you off to? Wants to know what you're doing every moment. Gemini moon doesn't know what it's doing from moment to moment. So this is why domestically that moon energy is of such importance. And then we've got the Sag moon. And Sag moon has got to find a reason to be optimistic. Needs new horizons. It's restless. Yeah. Needs a new perspective. Needs to go on an adventure. Likes learning as well. Often has got lots of opinions as Sag moon. Wants you to hear them. And then we've got Capricorn moon. Now Capricorn moon is more serious. Capricorn moon needs you to do something tangible, physical again. Can be quite ambitious, often wants a career, needs to feel useful. Very bossy sometimes, Capricorn moon. Yes, really, likes to be in charge. Really doesn't want to be told no. Aries moon either. Then we've got Aquarius moon. Perhaps you're an Aquarian moon. Well, this is don't fence me in. Don't pin me in. There can be plenty of space. And if you can do that with the Aquarius moon, then they will hang in there. They're very quirky. They do things in their own way. And Pisces moon. Well, Pisces moon is often very artistic, very creative, needs time out. All the water moons, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, you need time away, out of commission for a while. And Pisces moon needs to meander through life, wandering here, wandering there. And so it's so important, the moon sign. So really all of you should be able to find your moon sign. You know your sun sign. But the moon sign, if you go to my website, get your free chart if you don't already know it. yourastrologyscience.com. Go down to free report under reports. And you get a free mini reading as well. But you will see, even if you don't know your time, the moon is going to be in one of two signs. It may just be in the one, or maybe close to another sign. So see if you can find that out. So what I find is that the earth and water moons get along well. So Taurus, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio, Capricorn, Virgo, these get along very well. And then the air and fire moons get on well. Aries, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, Sag, Leo. I think I've covered them there. So my moon happens to be in Taurus. And it doesn't mean to say that I haven't got friends with different moons. I have. But being an astrologer and having studied all the different moon signs, I find ways of communicating with those different moon signs. For example, as a Taurus moon, I like somebody to let me know that they get home safely of an evening, right? If they've left my home and they're driving home, it's whatever, even a little text, I'd like somebody to let me know. That's Taurus, be reliable, practical. That's an earth moon energy. And I have a Gemini moon friend. And bless her, she's a Taurus sun. But that moon in Gemini, the minute she leaves my house, I know how that Gemini moon operates. She's thinking about a million other things. She gets home, and there's so many other things that occupy her attention, she forgets. And so I don't get upset about that with my Taurus moon. I would have done, but I know that that's her Gemini moon, and she doesn't mean that. That's not something that she's doing deliberately by not letting me know she got home safely. But this is the way that you can begin to read people and then make allowances. Use the astrology so that you can begin to adapt your ego position, if you like, and relate to another person. This is what I love about astrology. Because make no mistake, each one of us has every single sign somewhere in your chart. So that's why I'm saying this astrology is tremendously alive and vibrant. It's a subject that's got life. At least that's how I see it. And it can relate to global, it can relate to politics, to medicine, to health, to animals, to relationships, to money, to your soul purpose, past lives. It's an enormous subject and very often discredited. But I think that's largely to do with how it's presented. So now I'm going to get on to the Ascendant, and do keep in mind, and maybe I'll do this if there's enough demand for it, I will go into more detail about each and every one of the moon signs, each and every one of the sun signs, combining them, how they work together, and the ascendants. Of course, that's a lot of permutations, and it's a lot of work, but I love it. And I love the fact that I think that it can be very helpful in ways of being able to relate to one another with greater understanding and compassion. And that's how I like to use the astrology. You see, it goes on a deeper level. On the surface level, it can be seen on the surface level, as can great spiritual texts and teachings. You can read them on a surface level. You can do that with astrology. Or you can take it to these deeper levels. And you can transform your life. It can be a tool, a helpful tool to transform your life. Just another thing you can put in your toolbox and get out. So now let's move on to the ascendants. The ascendant, as I said earlier, is dependent upon your time of birth. The degree of the ascendant changes every 4 minutes of our time. So as you can see, if your birth time is wrong by just a few minutes, that will affect the degree of the ascendant. It matters, is all I can say. It does matter, without going into too much detail at the moment. So the ascendant, if you imagine, the ascendant is the sign that is rising as you were born. It's the one that's coming up on that eastern horizon. So this is you being born into the world. It's your shop window, if you like. It's your face that you present to the world, how you wish to be seen. Can have some deeper meanings, but I just want to give you this at the moment, to give you something simple to be able to work with. Now this ascendant sometimes can depict your appearance, sometimes, but not always. It's not a reliable tool. But I will say a few things generally about the appearance as I go through the ascendant signs. I just want to come back to something here because I am being asked while I'm online here. I have said that each and every one of you has all 12 signs in your astrology chart. And I'm being argued with, being said that that's not true. Somebody say they haven't got Leo, they haven't got Aries or Taurus or something. Let me assure you, if you get your free chart online, either off my website or anywhere, or look at your chart, you will see that it's broken up into 12 segments, 12 houses. And these are 12 different signs. So somewhere you will have each sign. Now, not every sign will be as strongly accentuated as some signs. Some people are very focused in just maybe 2 or 3 signs. And other people are spread out all over the place. And I will do a video for those of you who are interested at some point about chart formations. A visual look at a chart and what that means and what that tells you quickly about somebody. So that ascendant, it's quite a driver in the chart. I'm doing videos about ascendants as well. I'll be doing those in more detail. This is just a real overview for you today. It's quite a long overview, but I'm enjoying the fact that we're interacting together and you are pulling things out of me that I don't anticipate saying. I have an overall idea before going online, but I also want to be able to see what comes out as we do this together. So Aries ascendant. Aries ascendant, well, very often they've got a high forehead. The head is quite, sometimes they've got big heads, not necessarily proverbially, but physically. And Aries rising has got to do things. It's got to be active. And it can be very impatient. I've got a wonderful friend with Aries rising. She is just a wonderful, wonderful friend. But sometimes in her company, I'm a Libra sun, the opposite, she can be a little brusque. You know, it's like, come on, let's go here. Or we can be out somewhere and we're out with some friends looking for a restaurant of where to be. We're all hungry, you know, but Aries rising says, this is where we're going. You see, Aries rising likes to lead. Now, what your ascendant shows is also the opposite sign, because you are learning this lifetime how to balance the energy of that ascendant with the descendant, which is how you are in relationships. This describes your relationships. Boy, there's so much to astrology. As I sit here just explaining these little tidbits to you, I realise that we could be together for months. Just going through some of these really important backbones of astrology. So that Aries rising. And I just recognise that in her now, and she'll say it as it is, you know, and things come out often in an impatient way. But at the same time, ask an Aries rising if you want something done, because off they go. Then you've got Taurus rising, with Scorpio on the opposite on the relationships. The Taurus rising is much slower. Taurus rising can often be bodybuilders, really stockily built. They don't rush at things. Taurus rising likes to take its time. Taurus rising likes sensual things. Just to come back to that Aries rising, a couple of famous people, Rihanna, Shakira. Notice that Aries, never mind my second name, just take that first name, that's all I need. Then we have Taurus rising, and then there's this often very, very beautiful, ruled by Venus. So David Beckham, Ali McGraw, Donatella Versace. Yeah, that's the Taurus rising, but on the whole it's slower, and Scorpio on the descendant, so there's this often an intensity in their relationships. That will have to go in another video when I deal with relationships. And I may do something as well with Pam Gregory, my dear friend astrologer. We may do something on relationships together, because she too is a really great expert in this area. And everybody wants to know about relationships, don't they? So then you've got Gemini rising, and Gemini rising are often very thin, wiry, very youthful, active, running around, busy, looking at, curious, interested in lots of different things, restless. So Gemini rising, Lady Gaga, interesting, but she's got a lot of other things going on. Steffi Graf, the famous tennis player, yeah, often athletes often have a Gemini ascendant, that need for dexterity, very good with their hands, very often Gemini rising. Then we've got Cancer. I'm a Cancer ascendant. Cancer rising, super sensitive. Now, Cancer's another cardinal sign, like Aries is, but doesn't lead in the way that Aries does. Cancer does it in a gentler way. Yes? Cancer rising just kind of feels its way. That's why I enjoy doing these live streams, really, because I'm feeling my way. I'm like the crab, I'm going in and out of the water, in the water, out of the water. Sometimes I've got big eyes, watery eyes. Angelina Jolie, Julia Roberts. Then we've got Leo rising. Leo rising. Well, Leo rising needs to be noticed. Very often they've got a big mane of hair, beautiful hair, or they often have quite strong bodies. Tina Turner, Marilyn Monroe, these will be good examples of Leo rising. Need to be appreciated, like to be seen. Usually, I have to say things with a certain caveat, because there may be those of you who are Leo rising who have other placements who are not quite outgoing as Leo rising may suggest. And then we've got Virgo rising. Well, Virgo rising, Virgo rising often have chiseled features. Can be very beautiful to look at. Nice face structure. Often quite slim. And really can be quite critical of themselves and of others. That's why always the opposites are important. Remember the opposite, you've got the opposite of Virgo, Pisces. Virgo is so practical, so critical, so tangible. And Pisces, so dreamy, so impractical. So different. And that's where we have our challenges with relationships, you see. So Virgo rising, Olivia Newton-John, Shirley MacLaine, just to give you a couple of examples here. And then we've got Libra rising. Well, Libra rising, the opposite of Aries rising. Libra rising, very often very nicely colour coordinated. People, no matter where they are, got a few Libra rising friends, and they're always dressed nicely, even in the cheapest things. The colours match, everything looks nice, and they are often very charming people, easy to get along with. And like to keep the peace, don't like conflict, try to go along with things. But at the same time, Libra rising often has its own very significant opinions. Remember, Aries is the opposite. I often say that underneath a Libra, somewhere is an Aries, waiting to get out. Each has your opposite. That's why knowing all the signs are so important. Libra rising, as I said, can be very beautiful. Beyonce, Leonardo DiCaprio. But I do believe that Hitler was Libra rising. I'm a Taurus sun, so all that Venus. And he had a certain charisma. They have a charisma that they can use for good or for ill. And then we've got Scorpio rising. Well, Scorpio rising, you can often tell them by the intensity of their eyes, often a piercing look. Wouldn't want to mess with a Scorpio rising. Scorpio rising has an intensity to it. Very loyal. Usually stays on the field. No matter what's going on, they stay on the field, sometimes too long. They don't know when to get out. Sometimes an all or nothing way of being with Scorpio rising. And often Scorpio rising goes through a rebirth, dies and gets born again several times during a lifetime. Then we've got Sag rising, Scorpio rising, Hillary Clinton, Vladimir Putin, Tom Cruise, to name but a few. Get the idea. Sag rising. Well, Sag rising are usually very optimistic. Yeah, they want to grow, they want to learn, often interested in self-development, growing, trying always to see the optimistic side of things. Sometimes they've got a big mouth. Yes, that sort of horsey type of grin sometimes can be there with the Sag rising. Prince William, Oprah Winfrey. Then we've got Capricorn rising. Capricorn rising is more serious, yeah, ruled by Saturn. So very often I find with Capricorn rising, they've had quite a formal upbringing. Yes, they often had to be responsible at an early age. Take life quite seriously very often. Paul Newman, well, he certainly stayed with the same woman for a very, very long time. Queen Elizabeth II, a good solid Taurus with Capricorn rising. And of course the Leo moon there for the royalty aspect of it. And then we've got Aquarius rising. Now, Aquarius rising has to be different. Needs a lot of freedom, needs a lot of space. Can be quite quirky in the way that they dress. I often find that Aquarius rising find themselves later on in life because they give themselves permission to be freer, because freedom is your key word. And then we've got Pisces rising. And Pisces rising, sensitive, restless, needing change, artistic very often, changeable in your moods, needing one thing at one moment and then it changes, often needing nature. Sometimes can be issues, especially with Pisces, if Neptune is strong in the chart. Hey, welcome Pam, I just mentioned you. Pam Gregory, my dear friend astrologer, is online with us. I just mentioned that we might be doing soon a relationship video live stream together. How about that? So Pisces rising, yes, sometimes can get involved with drugs and alcohol because they're so sensitive. Yes, there's such a sensitivity there. Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Pisces risings, very interesting. So there is so much to say here. Many of you are asking lots of different questions, and I'm so grateful to have you online with me. But I hope that you're seeing, just by this little short introduction to the sun, the moon, and the ascendant, and how important they are astrologically and what they say about you. Yes, what I'm going to endeavour to do gradually, video by video, will be to pair things together. So the next step would be to look at the balance of the elements that you have in your sun, moon, and ascendant. Is it mainly fire? I have a friend who is a triple fire. One thing she's good at is taking action and making decisions. And, lucky devil, she's got a good digestive system. Lots of fire in the chart is really good for the digestion. Maybe you've got predominance of earth. The fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. The earth signs, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo. If you've got a lot of earth there, then you need to be practical. You need things that are tangible. You need to do things that have a result attached to them. Very often the fire signs, they just need that creative inspiration. And I have also written a book about the elements, because I feel that the elements, it's called The Elements, Physical and Metaphysical Astrology. You can get it on Kindle for a few dollars, very inexpensively. Because I feel that knowing the elements in a chart are vital in really beginning to understand how somebody ticks, how you tick. So then you've got the air element, the Libra, the Aquarius, the Gemini. Let's say you're predominantly air. So you're going to be predominantly in the mental realm, the learning realm, the studying, the teaching, the communications, the relationships. All the air signs have got issues around relationships that they want to enhance, deal with. And then the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. These are the emotional signs. And as I said, you've got all the signs somewhere in your chart. So it's great to understand all of the signs. I'm just giving you tidbits here to get you into the astrology in a way that is interesting, in a way that draws you in to want to learn more about you and about other people. And so those water signs are about compassion, caring. The downside of the water signs is they are often so sensitive that they cut themselves off. They can't stand to feel, and then they get disconnected because they feel so much. The water signs, the tears, the grief, the pains, to be able to release it. And they're often very artistic, very creative. So I'm going to take a couple of questions before I close, if there are any questions here. Or any ideas of what you'd like me to do. I do post regularly on the community page. And I try not to plan these videos too much so that they have a spontaneity to them, that they have an aliveness to them. There's nothing worse than something that's been so pre-planned. It's boring. So, I'm being asked whether I integrate Vedic astrology with Western. To be honest with you, I have not studied Vedic astrology in great detail. It certainly has tremendous validity, but it is not the area I have studied, so I can't make any valuable comments about it. So everybody, Thank you very, very much for tuning in today. I'm savouring our moments together. It's a great joy. And I'll take one more question before going. The Ascendant and the Moon in opposition. Gosh, there's a load of questions coming in now. Whoa! All right. You know what? I'm going to cover it the next time. Thank you very, very much. Love from Athens here in Greece. The weather forecast was awful and it's turned out beautiful. You never do know. Thank you very much for tuning in. Much love.